From female players crying on the course not knowing how to play anymore, to the sudden collapses of the most promising players on the LPGA Tour. These are the biggest players that flopped in women's golf in 2025. Quick quiz. How many top 10 finishes did the 2023 LPGA Player of the Year manage in 2025? Take a guess. 5, 7, 10? Try one. That's it. A single top 10 finish for a player who won back-to-back majors just 2 years ago. Welcome to the Lilia Vu freefall, where 4 wins and Player of the Year honors in 2023 somehow translated into the most spectacular collapse of 2025. Here's a player who captured the Chevron Championship and the Women's British Open in the same season, reached #1 in the world, and looked destined for sustained dominance. The numbers tell a brutal story. 1 top 10 finish at the HSBC Women's World Championship in February. Everything after that? A slow-motion disaster? She couldn't even qualify for the CME Group Tour Championship. The 2023 Player of the Year failed to make the season-ending event, finishing outside the top 30 in LPGA rankings. The missed cuts piled up like unpaid bills. 5 consecutive failures at one point, including the Evian Championship. 4 missed cuts at majors alone. For a 2-time major champion, that's not a slump. That's complete breakdown. She came close once at the Ford Championship, forcing a playoff with Kim Hyo-ju. Then she lost. Even when opportunity knocked, she couldn't answer. Compare her 2025 to her Player of the Year campaign. 4 victories versus 0 wins. $3.5 million in earnings versus $2 million while playing like a journeyman. Sometimes the championship hangover lasts longer than the celebration. Next up, 7 wins in 2024, 0 wins in 2025. The math doesn't lie, but how does a player get better statistically and somehow forget how to win tournaments? Welcome to the Nelly Korda paradox, where improved numbers produced worse results. This is a player who tied an LPGA record with 5 consecutive victories in 2024, who won 7 tournaments total, who looked absolutely unstoppable. Then 2025 happened, and the most dominant force in women's golf couldn't buy a trophy. Here's where it gets genuinely bizarre. Korda's statistics actually improved. Better scoring average at 69.87, better driving accuracy, better putting numbers across the board, and she made every single cut in 18 events, 0 missed weekends. Compare that to 2024 when she missed 3 cuts despite winning 7 times. So what went wrong? The Sunday problem emerged like clockwork. Her final round scoring average jumped from 69.58 to 71.27. That 2-stroke difference tells the entire story. She'd play brilliantly for 54 holes, then couldn't close when trophies were on the line. The U.S. Women's Open at Erin Hills became her defining disaster. Korda was the best player tee to green all week, leading in strokes gained off the tee and on approach. Then, on 18 in the final round, adrenaline sent her approach 10 yards too long. 1 shot, 1 miscalculation. Tournament gone? She finished runner-up, which perfectly captured her season. Close, but never close enough. 8 top 10 finishes without a single victory. Meanwhile, the LPGA produced 21 different winners in 20 events. Korda wasn't one of them. In August, she lost her world #1 ranking to Gino Thitikul after 71 consecutive weeks at the top. The Thai star had just 1 win herself, but knew how to close on Sundays. Being statistically excellent means nothing when the trophy case stays empty. The 2022 Women's PGA champion walked into 2025 expecting to compete for titles. She left without a single top 10 finish and questions about whether she'd ever contend again. In Gee Chun's major championship pedigree suggested sustained excellence was inevitable. After all, she'd captured the Women's PGA at Congressional, established herself among the elite, and looked primed for more big moments. Instead, 2025 exposed the difference between winning majors and consistently competing for them. 0 top 10 finishes across the entire season. 0. Her best result was a tied 13th at the ANA Inspiration, hardly the stuff of championship contention. That performance in April would represent the absolute peak of her year. A depressing reality for a player who'd hoisted major championship hardware just 3 years earlier. She failed to qualify for the Tour Championship, missing the season finale completely. Her world ranking plummeted from the top 20 to number 47 by season's end. A staggering collapse that told the story better than any tournament result could. The putting green became her personal torture chamber. Analysts identified her work with the flat stick as a major weakness throughout the season, watching decent ball striking get wasted by an inability to convert birdie opportunities. She was absent from leaderboards in all major tournaments, playing like someone who'd forgotten what championship golf looked like. Confidence issues compounded everything. The mental approach that once carried her through major championship pressure had completely abandoned her. Winning a major doesn't guarantee you'll compete at that level again. Sometimes it's the peak that precedes the valley. Here's what rock bottom looks like in professional golf. The 2017 Women's PGA champion finishing 170th in points. Not 70th, 170. Danielle Kang's 2025 season wasn't just bad, it was historically catastrophic. This is a former major champion, a player who once competed at golf's highest level, reduced to missing cuts and posting finishes that would embarrass tour rookies. Her best finish all season? Tied 54th. That wasn't a bad week, that was literally her season highlight. For a women's PGA champion to celebrate a tied 54th as her crowning achievement represents a spectacular failure of every fundamental skill. The missed cuts piled up like evidence in a criminal case. Week after week, Kang failed to make weekends, her game completely abandoning her when it mattered. She finished 170th in the LPGA points list, a ranking so low it suggests she barely belonged on tour at all. Ball striking deserted her completely. The iron play that once won majors now sent balls into hazards, and rough with alarming consistency. Her putting compounded every other problem, turning manageable rounds into disasters. Golf Monthly emphasized the complete breakdown of fundamentals. This wasn't one area struggling. This was systematic collapse. Mental approach was cited as a major contributor. When confidence evaporates and results spiral, the psychological damage becomes impossible to repair mid-season. Former major champions don't usually fall this far this fast, but Kang managed it with brutal efficiency. Up next, the prodigy who discovered that genius doesn't guarantee success when you're splitting time between LPGA tournaments and Stanford midterms. She won her professional debut, broke Tiger Woods' college records, and looked destined for immediate stardom. Then, 2025 reminded her that juggling finals and major championships is harder than making history. Zhang burst onto the scene in 2023 with a debut that creates legends. First player to win her first professional start since Beverly Hansen in 1951. The golf world declared her the next great American star. Instead of dominance, we got a masterclass in how divided attention produces divided results. The neck injury that derailed her season became the perfect metaphor for everything going wrong. She withdrew from the Chevron Championship after weeks of struggling with neck spasms. That withdrawal set the tone for a year of missed opportunities. Her best finish? Tied 15th at the HSBC Women's World Championship. No top 10 in any major. She failed to qualify for the Tour Championship, stunning for someone the media had crowned as women's golf's savior. The Stanford commitment became both explanation and excuse. Zhang took 22 units of classes during winter quarter, leaving virtually no time for practice. Her Tuesday-Thursday schedule ran from 9 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon. Straight classes with 10-minute breaks. She made only 13 starts all season, barely half a full schedule. Her world ranking told the brutal truth. From 12th to 55th over the course of the year. That's not gradual decline, that's free fall. Next up, 3 major championships, 20 years of professional golf, and somehow 2025 was the year Anna Nordqvist became completely irrelevant. The Swedish star's decorated resume reads like a Hall of Fame case study: 3 major titles, multiple victories worldwide, and decades at golf's highest level. That pedigree suggested she'd at least remain competitive, even if the wins dried up. Instead, 2025 proved that major championships don't prevent career nosedives. Another year without victory, extending a winless drought that's becoming her defining legacy. Her best finish was tied 13th at the LPGA Drive-On Championship in January, and that performance would represent the absolute peak of her season. Everything after? A steady descent into irrelevance. 0 top 10 finishes across the entire year. For a 3-time major champion, that's not just disappointing, that's a complete collapse of competitive golf. She showed up at majors and disappeared by the weekend, never threatening, never contending, never giving anyone reason to remember she was still playing. Her world ranking dropped outside the top 50, a staggering fall for someone with 3 major championships on her resume. At 38, the questions shifted from, when will she win again, to, should she still be out here? Golf Monthly described her as a fading star, which feels generous. The analysis pointed to physical preparation issues, suggesting she wasn't putting in the work necessary to compete at golf's highest level. When major champions stop grinding, they stop winning. And Nordqvist looked like someone going through the motions. Next up, a player who built a reputation on consistency, then watched it disappear completely. Strip away the steady performances she'd accumulated over decades, and what's left? A player who couldn't even crack the top 10 once in 2025. Amy Yang entered the season as one of women's golf's most reliable competitors. For years, she'd been a fixture in the top 20, the kind of player who showed up every week and posted respectable finishes. Steady, dependable, consistent. Then 2025 happened, and all of that evaporated like morning dew. 0 top 10 finishes across the entire season. Her best result was a tied 12th at the Bank of Hope LPGA Match Play Championship. Hardly the stuff of competitive golf. That March performance would represent her season peak, a depressing reality for someone who'd spent years among the game's elite. She failed to qualify for the CME Group Tour Championship, missing the season finale that had become a regular stop in her schedule. After years as a top 20 mainstay, she completely disappeared from meaningful rankings. The major championships told the same story. No significant results anywhere. She'd show up, play uninspiring golf, and fade into irrelevance by the weekend. Experts described her season as one of missed opportunities, but that suggests she actually had chances to convert. Most weeks, she never got close enough to miss anything. Her ball striking remained decent, which made the lack of results even more baffling. She couldn't convert solid contact into scoring, watching birdie opportunities slip away with frustrating regularity. Consistency isn't permanent. When it disappears, there's nothing left to fall back on. Coming to the next one, a 2-time U.S. Women's Open champion who turned 2025 into a masterclass in how fast careers can derail. Picture this. A player who captured major championships in 2021 and 2024, missing cuts so consistently that her season became a cautionary tale about championship golf's fragility. Yuka Saso entered 2025 with legitimate credentials. 2 U.S. Women's Open titles suggested sustained excellence was inevitable. Instead, we got 7 missed cuts and a world ranking that collapsed to 103. The missed cut streak became her defining characteristic. 7 failures to make the weekend, including brutal exits at the Chevron Championship, the U.S. Women's Open she'd won just months earlier, and the Evian Championship. For a 2-time major winner to miss the cut at the tournament she'd literally conquered the previous year represents psychological collapse of the highest order. Her best finish? Tied 20th at the Bank of Hope LPGA Match Play Championship. That's not championship contention, that's barely competitive golf. She finished tied 66th at the Women's PGA Championship, miles from the leaderboard. The opening rounds told the story of technical breakdown. Mid to high 70s became standard, watching competitors pull away while she scrambled to salvage respectability. Golf Monthly expressed genuine concern about her complete loss of form, citing mental fatigue and poor technical execution. She won a major in June 2024, then fell apart months later. All right, we move on to the former Women's Open champion who played so infrequently in 2025 that people forgot she was still on tour. Georgia Hall's major championship in 2017 suggested a future filled with contention and trophies. Instead, 2025 delivered a lackluster season where absence became her most notable characteristic. The British star played infrequently, and when she did show up, the results explained why staying away might have been the better strategy. Her best finish was tied 15th at Honda LPGA Thailand, nowhere near competitive golf. 0 top 10 finishes across the entire season. Not one. For a former Women's Open champion, that's not just disappointing. That's complete abandonment of the form that once made her elite. She failed to qualify for the CME Tour Championship, her season ending without even reaching the finale. The inconsistency became maddening. Hall would show flashes of decent ball striking, then follow with rounds that suggested she'd forgotten how to score. She struggled to find any rhythm, any momentum, any reason to believe she could recapture past glory. Experts noted her inability to build on anything positive. One decent round would be followed by two disasters. One solid front nine would collapse on the back. The championship mentality that won the Women's Open had completely vanished. Compare her 2025 to her major championship season. The contrast is brutal. Up next, remember the 2019 AIG Women's Open winner who captivated golf with her smile? 6 years later, that smile couldn't hide a season of complete mediocrity. Hinako Shibuno's stunning victory at Woburn in 2019 created instant stardom. The smiling Cinderella captured hearts in a major championship, suggesting Japan had produced another superstar. Instead, we got a player who'd spend the next 6 years proving that one magical week doesn't create a career. Her 2025 season finished far outside the top 50 in rankings, a devastating reality for a major champion barely into her 30s. The best finish was tied 7th at the US Women's Open, a performance that looked promising until you realized she completely failed to capitalize on it. That US Open result showed flashes of her 2019 brilliance, reminding everyone what she could do when everything clicked. Then, she proceeded to struggle at every other event, as if that one decent week exhausted her competitive reserves. She couldn't maintain form over multiple rounds, watching promising starts dissolve into forgettable finishes. No consistent top 10 finishes, despite occasional glimpses of good play. She'd show up one week playing solid golf, then disappear for months playing like someone who'd never won anything. The inconsistency became her calling card: unpredictable, unreliable, and ultimately uncompetitive. Analysts cited lack of competitive fire and an inability to sustain excellence. 6 years removed from her major win, Shibuno was playing like a completely different golfer, one who never belonged at golf's highest level. One magical week at a major can define a career, but it can't sustain one. What if I told you that a player who won 3 times in 2024 couldn't win once in 2025, and somehow made it worse by failing spectacularly when it mattered most? Hannah Green's 3-win season in 2024 established her as one of women's golf's consistent winners. The Australian looked primed to build on that momentum, competing for majors and adding trophies to an already impressive resume. Instead, 2025 delivered a regression so complete it made people question whether 2024 was the outlier. 0 victories despite entering the season as a proven winner. That's not unlucky, that's a pattern of failure to execute when tournaments are on the line. The AIG Women's Open became the symbol of her catastrophic year. Rounds of 79 and 77, missing the cut at a major with scores that would embarrass weekend golfers. 79! That's not struggling with competitive pressure, that's complete breakdown of fundamentals. Other weeks showed middling results and 0 contention. She'd show up, play uninspiring golf, and fade into irrelevance by Sunday. No consistent top 10s, despite being a 3-time winner just 1 year earlier. Golf Monthly and other outlets noted the disappointing regression, watching a player who'd won 3 times completely forget how to compete. The 79-77 performance at the Women's Open exposed her inability to handle pressure when big events arrived. Compare 3-win 2024 to winless, struggling 2025. The contrast is brutal. Sometimes success in 1 year is just borrowed time from the failure waiting in the next.